Hello and welcome to the Further Emergence retreat, first retreat. And my thinking with this was to give you a chance to, and to give me a chance to take a bit more time, a bit longer than the Zoom groups, and to take some time away from your life and to really focus on what's going on, like why you would be interested in this, why you would to, like part of you goes a retreat, part of me anyway goes, yeah, retreat, that'd be great. Or meditation, yeah. Or consciousness, yeah. But what is that? And what really is that all about? And what are we doing here? And what does it really mean to you? That's kind of the focus of this one, this retreat, to really own it. Because as I say at the beginning of all the Zoom groups, the time of the guru is over, the time of the spiritual teacher is over, the time of the spiritual master is over. Now that's easy enough to say. But what it means is, personally, is that you can't, or well, not that you can't, but the time of going to somebody else and saying, tell me what it's all about. Tell me, what life is about. Tell me what, you know, God is about. Tell me about what energy is about. Tell me what consciousness is about. All that kind of stuff. The sort of stuff that people go to spiritual masters and spiritual gurus and all that kind of thing for. That time is over, as far as I can see, because it feels like that consciousness is raised to the point now where everyone's under their own steam. Now, not everybody, okay? Because what's very obvious at the moment is, to me anyway, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I'd say it really started to dawn on me about 3 or 4 weeks ago, was that, like, when the whole COVID thing happened and the lockdown started and everybody went into this enforced meditation retreat, this is the way I think of it anyway. There was such a lot of potential for change, huge change. And you could see that externally as well. People stopped traveling. Like the whole world stopped, well, not the whole world, but a lot of the world stopped traveling. Huge amount of people stopped traveling. Cars stopped going. Pollution eased off. The clouds of smog over Beijing and all these other smoggy cities, that are notoriously smoggy. Like you could see in the satellite pictures, it cleared. There wasn't any smog anymore. And yet it was loads of these pictures of animals on the street, deer, bison, all this kind of thing. It was beautiful. And it was like, wow, we can really stop doing all this destructive stuff if we want to. And on a personal level, everybody was indoors having to face their stuff, whether they wanted to or not. So different people like went into drinking and depression and not to minimize depression, but not clinical depression. I'm talking about, oh God, I'm so bored. I have to face my wife or my husband or my kids and my life, all that kind of stuff. And then as people settled into it, there was a time where people were like, I really miss so much stuff that I took for granted. I mean, what a beautiful thing that people were, and I'm going on just what people are saying online and just from talking to people, a deep appreciation of the little things that make life brilliant. People were appreciating that. And there was people were having to look at their lives, and people are going, why am I going to work like this all the time? Why am I stuck in traffic for an hour and a half every day, both ways? That's 3 hours of my life. I could be playing with these kids that I didn't particularly like that much before the lockdown, and now I think they're fantastic. They were kind of annoying before, and now it's great to be with them. Now, I know all sorts of terrible things came up as a result. Domestic abuse shot through the roof, apparently. and apparently there's queues to the divorce courts. So it all hasn't been, lovely. But there was a period from then until about 3 or 4 weeks ago, where it was like there was a pause, a moment for everybody to become more conscious. And what dawned on me 3 or 4 weeks ago is that period's over now. Now it's probably more noticeable here in Ireland because we're only coming out of lockdown now, and it's only very gradually we're coming out of lockdown. So Ireland has been in lockdown for 240 days or something like that. We popped out over Christmas for, I don't know, a week, and then we were back into it straight away. So a long time. So I know other countries haven't been as locked down as we have, and for them, but I think I'm picking up on like a global kind of energetic thing, and I'll explain a bit more about that afterwards because we're going to do a meditation about that later on. So pretty much I'm talking about, the time of the guru is over and all that, and that consciousness has risen. It hasn't risen evenly. When we were all in the flux and we were all in lockdown, there was an opportunity for everybody. Everyone had a chance to grow, but not everybody did, as far as I can see. And also, because everything with me anyway is in front of the scenes and behind the scenes. It's like what's going on in this illusion that we call reality, and then what's going on behind that. So it's both. So it's a bit of, hey, I'm gonna keep bobbing this thing on my head. I better sit forward a little bit. It's both. It's what's going on behind the scenes and what's going on in front of the scenes. And you can see like people talking about, I can't wait for things to get back to normal. If you hear somebody saying that, there's a good chance they didn't really take full advantage of the opportunity to grow. That sounds a bit judgmental, doesn't it? I don't mean it like that, but if you think that the way things were was great, that's a sort of that there's a level of unconsciousness there, because things weren't great. It's very obvious things weren't great, and the fact that things weren't great led to the lockdown. Like everybody's focused on the vaccine and COVID, and that's nothing, like all that stuff has nothing to do with it. Like COVID is just a product of a lot of unconsciousness, because we've just been hammering away at the planet, putting stress on the planet. And it's not like we're the first thing that's ever put stress on the nature of Earth. Meteors, ice ages, volcanoes. These are all things that put stress on the planet. And the planet responds and adapts. And that's what it's doing now. Except this time, we're the stress. We're the ones putting the stress on the planet. So the planet's adapting and responding. But we're just a bit arrogant, and we think we're the center of the universe, and we think it's all about us, and it's not. So to think that, like, if we just get back to the way things were, it's like you had all that time at home to have a think about things, and to have an opportunity to learn and to become more informed about what's really going on. And if you didn't, and if you think, let's just get back to normal, I think you missed the opportunity. Maybe that is a bit judgmental. I don't mean it to be judgmental. I don't feel it judgmental. For me, it's an observation. So there's a lot of that, and there's a depressingly large amount of that. Okay, but there is a lot more people who are becoming more conscious, and who did take the opportunity, and who did use the time to reevaluate. So while we were all in flux, I could say, oh yeah, this consciousness is raised and it's great. Now it's more qualified. It's like there's a lot more people who raise their consciousness and use the time than there were, for sure. So I can just say it that way. And for those people, and pretty much for the other people as well, but for those people, the time of the guru is over. Because as your consciousness rises, you have to be under your own steam. Life won't let you, as far as I can see anyway, it won't let you keep abdicating. That's why the cults always, end up disastrously. Sometimes fatally, which is awful, but other times it's just in disillusionment and sex scandals and money scandals, and the cult leader, the guru, turns out to be not so great after all. It's the rare exception that it doesn't, that they are brilliant all the way through. So with that in mind, then it's important to begin that process for yourself and to kind of go, oh, okay, I have to do this for myself. I have to own it. I have to completely own it. I can't take anyone's word for it. I can't just, have someone tell me. So what we're doing here is sharing, not in a hippy dippy, thanks for sharing kind of way, but we're sharing information, we're sharing space, we're sharing energy. I'm not doing any teaching. That's not the point, and I'm not interested in that because of what I just said, because you can't really teach anybody this at this stage. I don't know if you ever could, but it seems to me like the whole point is to acknowledge where you're at, meaning what does all this stuff mean to you? Why, because every we have all these words about things: consciousness, spirituality, growth, you name it. There's like so many words, and there's like loads of Indian words, and there's loads of Chinese words, and loads of words for this stuff, which is lovely. But what I'm encouraging you to do is to ask yourself, what does it mean to me? Why am I interested in this stuff? Why can't I just drink wine and forget about it and go, can't wait till things get back to normal? Why has this stuff always been interesting to me? To really start to ask yourself those questions and get into it more. So for me, I'll just tell you about me, like why I'm doing it is I just love talking about this stuff. I love talking about it, and I love sharing the bits that I've discovered for myself, what works for me. And if what works for me happens to work for somebody else, that gives me a lot of pleasure, gives me a lot of satisfaction. If and it would be like if we were fans of some obscure car, and we're this little group of people who just love this Morris Minor. I used to have a Morris Minor, which is a funny old car. And the way when those groups of people get together and they can talk for hours about hubcaps and, I don't know, clutches, carburetors, I don't know, whatever, car stuff. And they're happy as Larry. To me, it's that's all this is. I just happen to have always been interested in consciousness and spirituality and growth. I love talking about it, and I love sharing tips and tricks and things that have worked for me, and that particularly if I've had a lot of grief with something and a lot of pain with something, and then I figured something out, and if I say, oh, I tried this and this really worked for me, and if somebody else goes, oh, that's brilliant, yeah, that works for me as well, that's fantastic. And I have a feeling that if most gurus came at it from that point of view, they would energetically come down off the stage and be in the group with everyone else and be part of the fan club, because that's what it is. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of consciousness. I'm a fan of God, whatever that, I'm just using that word, but that thing, that big thing, right? I'm a fan of it. I love it. You know, I'm a fan of growth. I'm a fan of freedom, because to me, when I go from being unconscious to a bit more conscious, I feel freer. So I think that makes me a fan of freedom as well. Not in a, you know, democracy freedom kind of way. That's a different thing. I just inner freedom, freedom on the inside. That's what I feel like when when I go from being unconscious to more conscious. I feel freer. So these questions, this retreat is all about questions, I think. I'm laughing because I don't I purposely didn't prepare for this. My mind wanted me to prepare for this, but I didn't, because I have lots of things bubbling up inside me about it, and I sort of knew if I wrote them down, all the energy would go out of it. So when I say this is about questions, that's the first time I've actually put it in that context. But it is, you know, the important questions like, why am I interested in this stuff? Why do I bother taking 3 hours out of my life to do this? Why do I want to go on a retreat? But then also the other questions like, why am I? Meaning, what's going on here? You know, what is this thing that wakes up every morning? And what is this thing that I wake up into every morning? And where do I go when I go to sleep? Like, it's fine to listen to what I think about that, but for you, you know, where was I before I became conscious? Was I before I became conscious? You know, are memories real, or are they just the same as imagination? My memories, you know, I mean, for you, asking yourself that. Why was I born a man or a woman? You know, it's so random. Why not? Why weren't you born the opposite gender? You know, when I say it's so random, I mean, we know it's not random in our hearts. When I think about it, it's like, no, that's not random. There's a reason, you know. But looked at it from another way, well, it could have been the opposite. I could have been a woman. Why was I born in Ireland? Why were you born where you were born? You know, is that random? I don't think so. And if you don't think so as well, it's like, well, why? Why that? Why that? You know, why this time? You know, why were you born when you were born? These kind of questions, you know. I think those kind of questions are profound. Like, why did I have these parents? Why did all this stuff happen to me? You know, is it random? I know John says it's not random for him. But what about me? What do I think? What do I think? Do I really think it's all random, or do I think it's significant? And if I do think it's significant, if I have a feeling in my heart that it's significant, what is the significance? What does it mean? You know? So we'll come back to all that. But for now, we're going to do the first meditation. And before we start into the eyes closed bit of it, in the same way as I've been saying about questioning, I want to sort of go into and explore a bit more and ask questions about things that are that it's easy to take for granted, and that I have found for me, it's really helpful to question those. But let me just pause momentarily and ask if anybody has any questions about anything that I've been saying so far, because I don't want to just be banging on about stuff and You can interrupt me if, you know, it's not the John show, it's the group show. My last book, The Gentle Snap, the original working title was The Little Book of Big Assumptions. I really like that name. Maybe I should have called it that, but anyway. And the reason I was interested in that topic or that name was because I started to ask myself questions about my experience, my waking experience. And they were kind of what if questions of what if I didn't just assume things about my existence? Like, and you've heard me say stuff like this before. Like, why can't I see my face? Why, why can't, I can see other people's faces, but I've never seen my face. And so, well, you can look in the mirror, you can see your face. But no, I can't. Like, all I can see is a reflection in the mirror. I can't see my face. I've never seen my face the way I see somebody else's face. It's always in a reflection. And the question is, why is that? For me, I would ask myself, and I'd encourage you to ask that for yourself as well. Why is it? Why have you never seen your face? I wonder about that. I started to wonder about why haven't I ever seen my face? And then that quickly led on to, well, you know what? I've never seen the back of my head either. Come to think of it, if we're into that, why is that? And my brain, this was like, I've found this difficult because my brain would go, what are you talking about? Like, you can't see it because your eyes are here and they, anatomically, you can't just see that stuff, but you can see the back of other people's heads. Isn't that enough for you? And part of me would just go, well, fine, I can see the back of other people's heads, but I've never seen the back of my head. And really to go, oh yes, I have a back of my head, well, that's an assumption. And I don't want to, I'm not going to assume that. I'm just going to leave that as an open. I've seen everyone's faces and I've seen my face, or I've seen a reflection that moves when I move in the mirror. And it looks like other people's faces, but I am not going to say definitely that that's my face because I've never seen it. And then, and not to kind of go, why would you even wonder about that stuff? And it's because I think it comes from meditation, actually. Because from my experience in meditation, when you have your eyes closed, all that visual stuff goes. You're just kind of in your inner space. And I think that question started to really come up out of my meditation of my experience of my presence in meditation with my eyes closed, without the visual stuff. And then when I opened my eyes, it started to kind of go, if you stopped assuming you had a face and you were just like everybody else and blah, 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 and you just left that as a big question mark about what's actually happening here, and you let go of assumptions, you might get a different perspective. And that's what I did get. I did get a different perspective. So that's great for me, but I wonder about you. Like, I wonder what it's like for you. And I wonder, I encourage you to ask yourself those questions, because I know I got a lot of benefit out of it from me asking those questions. Someone saying different perspective of yourself. I don't understand the question. So
like you gain a different perspective of what, like yourself or life or
from asking all the questions.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, it was more than a different perspective, though. It was it felt like um, seeing these things that were assumptions and seeing them for what they were and not just dismissing them. And it allowed me to become more, what felt like more real, or to come into better contact with what was really happening, because I realized there was a lot of assumptions going on um, about what was happening. Um, and it led to this feeling uh, of not taking, uh, like say wherever you are, you're in a room, right? Like not going, the room that I left, like, you know, um, whatever room you're in, okay? There'll be other rooms in the building, I'm assuming. But as soon as you close the door and as soon as you just come into where you are, for me, I don't assume that the other rooms are still existing, which sounds crazy. I know. But what it's led to, right, is I've really started to kind of see the illusion of reality. What looks, yeah, it's a bit like painting, actually. We look at a two-dimensional painting and we think it's three-dimensional. We kind of go, oh yeah, their eyes are following me around the room or whatever. I mean, that's the whole craft of painting pictures, is to create the illusion of three dimensions. Well, it's like that turned around and going, this thing that looks really three-dimensional is not. It's only as big as what's in front of me. It's a screen as far as I can see. And that's not to mean that I dismiss it or I don't take it seriously. We can go into all that later. This is all kind of preparation for the meditation. Because I'll tell you what I have arrived at, and then you can try it out for yourself, okay? And I've thought about this a lot, and I've looked at it in my experience and whatever. I've gone right into it, but you can see how it is for you. So when I stop assuming that I've got a face, and that that what's going on is something else, that I'm looking into this thing that we call existence or reality, and it's so believable, it's so real. And the other thing that I think about a lot is, in as much as I can never see my face, I never know what's going on behind me. Okay. Now, again, that sounds kind of crazy. Meaning, well, you could just turn around. It's like, no, I'm not talking about that. It's like, and you can try this now, right, wherever you are in your room. Okay. If you just for a minute, okay, stop imagining what's behind you, or stop the assumption, let's say, that there's something behind you, and just really come into your field of vision, and that your field of vision is a bit like a flashlight. And that wherever the flashlight isn't, I'm kind of turning as I'm saying this, you can try it as you're doing it. Wherever you're not looking, you could go, well, it's still there because I can see it, but you can't see it. It disappears, right? And you go, hang on, and you turn this way, turn a different way, sweep the flashlight of your vision back the other way, and everything that was on the other side disappears. Now, you'll notice, and I noticed for me, that my brain was furiously going, because I can imagine, and I just seen this side of the room. So let's say if you're sitting down, right, you look to your left, and you just register everything that's on your left, and then you sweep around to the right. My brain is still putting it together and going, oh no, what was over there is still there. Okay. But if I just come right into my experience, my direct experience, it's not. My direct experience is just, I'm seeing the right side of the room now. Okay. And my brain, and you might find this as well, tell me if it is, my brain will be going, oh, for God's sake, of course it's still there. And I go, okay, fine. I'm not going to get into a fight with my brain about it. I'm just going, that's an assumption. I don't know that that's there. I don't know. It's not in my experience. The left side of the room is not in my experience when I am looking at the right side of the room. Okay. And you might go, why does that even matter? And it's like, well, you're sort of, for me, I'm kind of coming into what my actual experience is rather than what my assumed experience is. And my actual experience is I've got this field of vision thing that moves. If I look up, everything below me disappears. If I look down, everything above me disappears. It's actually kind of finite. There's only so much I can take in, particularly in a room. It's easy to do it in a room. Like if you're looking at the horizon, it's harder to do, but in a room, it's easy. You kind of go, yeah, it's only wherever I look. Try it. You see what I mean? Like when you just, don't say it doesn't exist, but when you just, oh, well, that's kind of an assumption. And then it's like, yeah, okay, so that's why I can never see behind me, because if I turn around, I'm just looking at there. What was in front of me is now disappeared. So I can never actually see behind me. I'm like, well, so what? Well, if like what it began to feel like to me was I'm looking into something, and you can see parallels of this, It's like, why do we like stories? I'm not going off on a tangent here. This is going somewhere. Why do we like stories? Why do we like movies? Why do we like virtual reality? I think it's because they are like Russian dolls of what's really going on, except in reverse. Meaning, a movie is like a symbol of life. And it's like, we go into a place when we used to go to cinemas and uh, we go, this is not real, but I'm going to pretend it's real, or I'm going to get involved with it. And part of the part of my brain that would be going, this is just flickers of light on a wall. It's not three-dimensional. Nobody's really in jeopardy. They're not really hanging off the side of a cliff. You're just looking at pictures. But some deep part of us gets into it. And, if you've ever cried at a movie, which I have, or you've ever laughed at a movie, what are you laughing about? Sound and shadows on a wall. You're like, no, no, no. And that's because we get into it. And it's like movies, stories, cavemen telling stories. It's because some part of us, I think, knows that this too, what we call existence, and that it is real and it's not serious. Some part of us knows it's not, that we are engaged in this thing just the same way as we get engaged in a movie. So if you at the moment, virtual reality, the way they have it organized is you got to wear these ridiculous looking goggles. It's like strapping a pair of binoculars onto your head that don't have lenses, so you can't see through them. And what you're looking at is a little screen. Now, if you were, have I tried them? I have a little bit, right? But I understand what they look like and how they work. So there's sensors in the visor that you put on, so that when you tilt your head down, it changes the screen. I mean, if anyone has an iPad or an iPhone and you get one of those little apps, they're brilliant. Like you lift the phone up and it moves the little gizmos in the phone that knows where the phone is. When you lift it up, it changes the perspective, and you lift it down. Like I got one for stars, and I got one for stars. So you turn this app on your phone, and you hold it up to the night sky, and wherever the phone is pointing, it will tell you, it will show you the night sky on the screen and tell you the names of the stars. And then if you move it over here, it'll move, and it's almost like you've got a little transparent phone that you're looking at the night sky through, because it knows where it is. And then the other app I got was for seeing through the planet. And what you could do with this one was, you point it at the floor, and it tells you what country is underneath you. Meaning, if you went right through the core of the planet and out the other side, you say, oh, there's Australia. Or if you're in Australia, you'd be like, oh, there's Ireland, or whatever. And it moves as you move. So it's the same with the goggles. You move your head around, you look to the left, and it looks like you're looking to the left. And if you swing your head around to the right with the goggles on, in this virtual world that you're looking at, it'll move around to the right. Now that to me is exactly what's happening now, except I, and everyone else tells me, no, 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 that's not what's happening. The other side of the room still is there when you're not looking at it. Okay. Now, so that would be like talking to someone who's got the goggles on and they're going, oh, this is amazing. When I look over to the left, I can see the left side of the enchanted forest. And you go, well, where's the right side of the enchanted forest? And they go, well, look here, the right side of the enchanted forest is there. And if you said to them, does that mean the enchanted forest is real? They go, no, I'm just doing the virtual reality thing. It moves when I move. What are you talking about? They might even take the thing off and go, stop asking me stupid questions. But when I pull back from assumptions and go, well, what's actually happening with my field of vision? Very like that. To me, it's like, yeah, it moves. Okay. And then from the meditation point of view, it's like when I close my eyes and I turn off all the vision, it's like, then I come into the sensation inside my body. Okay. And it's like, okay, well, what is that? What sensation? What's going on there? These are questions I'm encouraging you to ask yourself. That's what I was asking myself. It's like, what's happening? Like, I'm clapping my hands together here, right? And I can feel one hand twitching off the other. But what's really, where am I feeling that? It's like, well, I'm feeling it in my hand. Wait, what? I'm feeling, like I pick up a cup here, put my glass of water, right? So I can feel the coldness, the hardness of the glass of water. And it's like, okay, so where am I feeling that? Like, what? Where am I feeling the glass of water? I'm like, well, I'm touching it. Yeah, but where am I feeling the sensation? Well, what do you mean? Well, where am I feeling the sensation of the glass of water in the glass of water or in my hand? And again, if I close my eyes, it's very obvious. I'm feeling it in my hand. All right, gotta have a little drink. So what does that mean? What is that important? I think it is, right? Because it's like, okay, so if vision is possibly not what I think it was, if it's not as solid as I once thought, okay, that maybe it's like I'm wearing a goggles, okay, but what about this touching thing, you know, sensation? It's like, well, like, it, you know, because they have pressure sensitive gloves now for virtual reality. They've got that far with it, okay? And it's the same. It's pretty much the same. You put on a glove and it's got sensors in it. So I'm in the magical forest in the virtual world and I'm looking at the trees. And if I reach my hand out with the glove on and I touch a tree, I'll feel it in my hand. I go, wow, that's amazing. Look at that. I can touch the tree. And if I have two gloves on, it's like, wow. And I can go around the tree in the virtual world, virtual magic forest. And I can, wow, I can feel it. I can feel it in my hand because inside the glove, there's pressure sensors and it's linked to the whole software, blah, blah, blah. And it's all linked together. And it gives me the impression that I'm touching something. That's kind of the same as far as I can see, because I never feel anything touch-wise outside. You know, when I pick up my glass of water, I'm not feeling the sensation of the glass of water in my hand. I'm not feeling that in the glass of water. I'm feeling it in my hand, inside my hand, which I could say, well, isn't that, maybe I'm wearing a glove. Maybe this thing that I call my hand that I'm so familiar with, maybe that's actually a glove. Maybe it isn't. But if I stopped assuming that it's, oh, that's my hand, nerves, sensors, blah, 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 all the stuff that, you know, it's like, then that's another sense that's kind of open for question. And why that's particularly useful is it's like, you know, because you go, well, I could feel the back of my head. Now I know I have a back of my head because I can feel it. Okay. But then when you go, well, if the sensation is maybe not a glove, that's like me touching the tree in the magic forest. It all goes together. It appears to be seamless, but these little things that I'm talking about are assumptions, right? Touching the back of my head. Oh, well, maybe that's just like the magic trees in the forest. You know, maybe it's not really there, or not in the way I think. So when I allow that to expand, and I sort of have my whole body up for question, because I've got sensations in my toe, I've got sensations in my knee, I've got sensations in my hip, I've got sensations in my back, right? Now, I can't see my back. I can see the back, I can see my toes, I can see the back of my legs. If I get really good at yoga, I can see more of the back of my legs, but I never see my back, and I never see the back of my head. And then I add to the fact that I can never see what's behind me. And if this was a big, elaborate virtual reality type thing that I was entering, it seems that I come into it from the back. It seems that I am looking into existence, and it's almost like I put on this glove of a body. I might put, you know, and I go down into my legs, and everything is behind me, or where I am, you know, the more real side of things is behind me. In just the same way as the person with the goggles on and the thing could lift them off, you know, they could pull back from them, you know, and go, oh, this is what's real. Then they could put them back on. Oh, back in the magic forest, pull back from them. Oh, okay, it's real. And this is what I think meditation is for me. Is because it's like, well, why do you have to close your eyes to meditate? I think that's a good question. And from, you know, from again wondering about these things, it's like, well, vision is so distracting. Or you could say vision is so fantastic, because it's so wow, like, you know, it all sweeps as I move my head around up and down. It's so interesting. So it's very hard, you know, if you were saying to somebody who'd been born with these virtual reality goggles on, and they thought they were in the magic forest their whole life, and you were saying to them, you know, you're not in the magic forest, you're in the, you know, you've been stuck in the bedroom your whole life with these goggles on, they would be looking around going, I don't know what you're talking about, because I'm in a beautiful forest, I don't even know what a bedroom is. And so you'd have to kind of say to them, take the goggles off, or turn the power off, you know, and then they'd come back a bit into, oh yeah, okay, it's not real. I thought, where's the magic forest gone? It's all gone dark. You know, that's, for me, that's why meditation starts with closing your eyes. And what I'm saying about meditation starts with that, I mean, like when you start learning meditation, you have to start closing your eyes. You have to close your eyes to shut it out, and that's why you need a quiet room. Because sound is just the same. Sound, like all these different senses that we have, they all go to help make the experience of what we wake up into so believable and so compelling. Okay, because bear in mind, you don't go to a movie to be continually reminded that it's a movie and that it's just flickers of light on the wall. You go to a movie because you want to have the experience. Some people like going to horror movies. I don't. Some people like to go to adventure movies. Yeah, I like them. Some people like going to love stories. They choose the movie before they go to it, okay? And they don't want someone sitting beside them going, you know, this is not real. This is just shadows. That would kill it, okay? So uh, to have the best fun in this experience that we're having, we want it to be believable. Okay, we want it to be so believable that before we go in, we forget. We consciously go, yeah, can I have the forgetting pill, the one that I take where I forget that this is a movie? Be like going to the cinema and saying that on the way in, and then you really believe it's real. So can you imagine going to a movie like Indiana Jones or something, and you were a character in that movie, and you had taken a drug before you went in that made you forget that it was a movie? can you imagine how, like, it's already when you go to a movie, you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Okay. Can you imagine what that would be like if you had taken something to make you forget, like the level of engagement and jeopardy? You'd be like, ah, that ball is going to crush us. You'd be running out of the tomb or whatever, you know? It would be great. You'd be like, oh, this is so much fun. um, so I think that's, for me anyway, I think that's why it's also believable. I mean, it's fantastic. And like your body, my body, right? But I think we are, uh, I think I'm involved in this particular reality for entertainment, for sure, because it's fun and I enjoy it. But I also think I'm figuring something out when I'm here. And that figuring something out is the consciousness bit, is about growing consciousness. So going back to the meditation. So I close my eyes, right? And I'm not saying we're going to do it yet. We're getting there, getting very close now. So I close my eyes, and then if you go into this meditation, okay, with the being open, let's put it that way, being open to all these what were perhaps solid, and that now maybe are assumptions, and that now maybe are just question marks. Okay. And as I say, if you, the only bits that I can't see are behind me, so it looks like I come into my body from behind. So if I think about coming back from that, coming back out of my body, out of this glove puppet that is my body, or this virtual reality suit, back, okay? You think about it in those terms, okay? Not saying it's definitely true or anything like that. I'm saying thinking about it in those terms and letting go of assumptions, okay? And then also, again, if you think of people's bodies, you know, when you look around, humans, we all look roughly the same. 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head, body in the middle. And if you thought about that as if you were standing on a bridge looking at a bridge over a highway, looking at all the cars going by, you could say all these cars look the same. They've all got 4 wheels, give or take. And there's a lot of them that are the same model. You would know that in the people in those cars are very different. Some people are very tall, other people are, you know, their skin is brown, other people's skin is yellow, other people's skin is white, some people have red hair, some people have wide faces, some people are very tall. I said that some people are very wide. You know, the people inside those cars are nothing like the cars, and yet from the outside, the cars all look the same. So similarly, when you, particularly with sensation, when we get into the sensation part of the meditation, if you let go of the idea that your sensation is the shape of your body, in the same way as somebody getting out of the car. I was only watching a movie last night, and this car pulled up. It was a smallish car, and 2 guys got out of the car. One guy got out and he looked normal, and the other guy was huge. As he was getting out of the car, he was very overweight, but he was also quite tall. And I was looking at him getting out of the car going, how did he even fit in there? Like, it's you know, the way, have you ever seen a very big person getting out of a small car? It's like, how did they get in there? And it was like that. Okay. So in the same way, if you don't assume the sensation of your hands, for example, is the shape of your hands and the position of your hands. And if you don't assume that your feet are where they're down there and that your head is up there or any of that kind of stuff, then you, and think of it more in terms of think of it more in terms of that you don't know what the shape is. You don't know what your shape is. It might be very different. And if you just go, well, I don't know what he's talking about, but look, we'll try it. You know, you can do that. That's fine. Just go along with it. Just try it. See what it feels. I have found for myself that I've got a very different shape, and it changes. It's not the same. You know, it's not like, oh, I know what I look like. Here, let me draw you a picture. It's not like that at all. Though I have had the experience of catching my reflection in the mirror and going, that's not what I look like. I I think I'm a lot taller inside. Anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, just if you just allow that possibility of, yeah, I'm not sure. I could be. I'm not going to assume. You do that, okay? So, um, talked about sensation. I'm just trying to make sure I've covered everything before we go into the meditation. Similarly with the hearing, it's if when your eyes are closed, one of the reasons I think my hearing amplifies is because it wants to keep connecting me to the illusion of that it's all real. It's all gone on. So I can hear distance. I can hear noises in the distance. You know, even saying it like that, it's like there is a distance. Like, no, there isn't. Or maybe there's not. For me, it's like, no, there isn't. It's just seems like it. Okay? And again, you'd have to keep, I would encourage you to keep asking yourself, like, why is all this important to me? Meaning to you. Why does this matter? Okay. And for me, it's important because a lot of my pain and a lot of my unconsciousness comes from over identification with this and from misidentifying this as real in the face of the very obvious demonstration every night that it's not real. What are you talking about? What I mean is, in my experience, this all disappears every night, gone. Right? And you might go, no, it continues on, and blah blah blah. Again, if I just take it, I'm not going to assume that that is true, because I have no experience of it going on. Where do I go? What? How I? Why is it just commonly accepted that I completely disappear every night? You go, well, you're asleep. What's that? What's sleep? What are you talking about? You know, and, like if you didn't, like the reason it's just so accepted is because we were babies and we spent so much time asleep, and then blah blah blah, we grow whatever. But if I come at it from a perspective of, for me, again, I'm just encouraging you to wonder about these things because I got a huge amount of benefit from these questions. It's like if I just allow the possibility of, no, that it's not just I'm sleeping. Okay. It's not just, I'm not, that's too easy. It's like, what's going on? It's like, oh, well, physiology, biology, REM, this, blah, blah, blah. What are you talking about? Where do I go? like, like, if you've ever had an argument with somebody, or you've ever been betrayed, or you've ever been stolen from, or, and or had your heart broken, and you're like devastated, oh my God, are we upset about things? And it's like, completely jump over the fact that every night, it just gone. And we like, no one questions that, or it's like, what do you mean it just goes? Like, I thought it was important. I thought I was heartbroken. Well, you are, but then for 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, you're not heartbroken. In the morning, you can be heartbroken again, but every night you're just gonna not be nothing. You're just nothing. Laughing because I'm sort of slightly hysterically laughing because the more when I really start to get into this, it's like, yeah, what's going on? What is really going on here? Okay. So these are all great questions to ask oneself, I think. Now, coming back to meditation. So let's play with the idea that we are wearing the most elaborate virtual reality suit in the existence, in the universe. Okay, it's got beautiful sensors that makes me feel like what I interact with, like the magic tree in the forest I was just talking about, makes me feel like that's real. And I touch this and I touch my body and I can touch the back of my head and it's brilliant. Okay. And when you close your eyes and we're talking about, if you sort of follow that along, it's like, okay, well, just like when we were talking about the person with the goggles and the visor, and they took the visor off and they were in their bedroom, they weren't in the magic forest. Where might I be if this is an illusion, and when I go asleep, where do I go? And then when I meditate and I pull back from the spacesuit, not the spacesuit, the virtual reality suit a bit, where is that? Okay. Because, I'm in Ireland and the different people in the group were on a few different continents, right? In the disillusion, right? Maybe we're all in the same room. Maybe we're all in the same bedroom, out of existence. Maybe, right? Maybe we're much closer than it appears here. And again, I was talking about the Russian doll thing turned around. Maybe that's what Zoom is about. Maybe Zoom is kind of saying to us, we're all actually a lot closer than we think. Okay. So again, similarly, when I'm thinking about meditating, I'm thinking about pulling back. And because I've just put this whole thing together with my body and sensation, I think about going backwards, because I go in the direction that I can't see, which is behind me. So I think about going backwards. And I let go of the idea of shape, that, I am a particular shape, a human shape, legs, arms, that shape. And I just have a big question mark over, I might be any kind of shape. I don't know what shape I am. I'm not going to go, I'm definitely, there's my head, there's my feet, there's my arms. I'm just going to be no question mark over that. So I'm pulling back. And then I'm going, okay, so I'm pulling back into something, and behind the scenes, or away from the suit, the virtual reality suit, away from this illusion, I could be really close to somebody else. I could be right beside somebody else, and we're both wearing our virtual reality suits, and that person thinks they're in Australia and I think I'm in Ireland, or that person thinks they're in America and I'm in Ireland, and that person thinks they're in Spain and I'm in Ireland, or whatever, right? But maybe we're not. Maybe maybe when we pull back, we can be right beside each other. This is my experience, and this is why I can do the further emergence work. I can, treat people who are in the illusion miles away from me, like thousands of miles away from me, because I'm not too fixed on the thing. Okay, but we won't get into that now. But for me, it's pretty grounded, because I'm just sitting here in my little house in Ireland, and I'm talking to somebody, and then we turn off the cameras, and then I start to work, and their body changes. Okay. Apparently, from a quantum physics point of view, that's very possible. But from a little John point of view, it's like, what? How is that possible? That still goes on inside. Okay, so finally, what, 1 hour, well, nearly an hour later, we're ready to start the meditation. But I really wanted to give a much more in-depth explanation of where I'm coming from when I'm meditating. And I find this powerful, scary as, and disorienting, because it's like, it really could all be an illusion. Oh my God, that's a lot to take in. But I find it helps when things like what I was just talking about happen, where I can work with somebody at great distances, and I'll feel like, oh yeah, I can feel this restriction in their system. it's changing, it's getting better, I'm doing what I can to help it, and then it releases, and then we turn the camera back on. The person said, oh my God, I was in the middle of this thing, I had this big restriction, I felt it in my chest or wherever I was feeling it, they're giving me feedback of exactly the same thing that I felt. Then to help this, knowing all this stuff helps my little brain not freak out too much, because it's like I have a model and a sense, because the model has come from my sense of it, of why that might be possible. Okay, so we'll do the meditation bit now, right? So